Is my 2 cents. Welcome back to my channel. Gonna be talking about something a little different for my channel this week, but the thought occurred to me just given how we've been talking a lot about economics, the Federal Reserve, and how it's been printing money like mad to try and sustain the U.S. government ever since the whole COVID-19 pandemic came down, and well, even before that technically, but really drastically in the past year. And a lot of economic hardship is on the horizon. But besides just the fact that economic hardship is on the horizon, I thought it'd be worthwhile to talk about what other kinds of things are going to happen, what other kinds of things you need to protect yourself from as economic hardship is on the horizon. But before I get into that, I did want to point something else out, and that is that after my last stream where I talked about has the global economic meltdown began, there was a comment on that live stream where they pointed out that initially when the COVID-19 pandemic started and I was doing those weekly streams updating on what was going on, I had mentioned the possibility of negative interest rates and food riots coming within just a couple of weeks. Now, as it happens, I was wrong about that. Despite the fact that it wasn't necessarily off the table, the Fed certainly could have taken interest rates negative. That did not happen. Although interest rates are staying pretty much near zero, and the Fed's made clear they're not going to raise them. And although there certainly was a lot of hardship, we didn't see food riots take place, at least not in the time frame that I had stated they could take place. And I commented on there, I said, hey, I'm not ashamed to admit I was wrong. And one thing I do want to, every now and then I want to take time to do this on my channel, and that is that when I started my channel, and I decided to call it My 2 Cents, there was a reason for that. And the reason is, quite simply, on this channel, I want to give you my 2 cents. Primarily about economic issues, relationship issues, current events, and a whole plethora of other things that I've discussed on this channel. But quite simply, on this channel, I'm giving you my 2 cents. I don't claim to be a scholar. I don't claim to be an expert. I don't claim that you should, ditch your life plans and create a new life plan based exclusively on everything I'm putting out on my channel. I certainly hope no one has done that. And that is that I am certainly not infallible. I'm giving you my opinions. I hope they're well researched and I make a good argument for them, but I'm not. But I certainly can be wrong. I have been wrong in the past, and I'm not ashamed to admit I'm wrong when people show me that I'm wrong. And this is important to me because there are a lot of YouTubers I followed in the past that I've grown disgusted with because they started by putting out a lot of great content, but as their channels started to grow, as they started to get more followers, they just start to develop this God complex where they've got all these followers, they're starting to make more money, and they literally, it seems to me, start to believe that they can never be wrong. And when people call them out when they are wrong, they just double down and refuse to admit it. I never want that to be me. I hope you've gained value from my channel. I hope I hope I continue to substantiate the things I make, the claims I make, but I never want to forget I can be wrong, and if and when someone shows me, hey, you said this at this point and that didn't happen, you predicted that this would happen and it didn't happen, or you said this but it's wrong, here's the citation, hey, I'm only human, I'm willing to admit that I can be wrong and am wrong sometimes. On this channel, I'm giving you my 2 cents, and you can take it for what it's worth. But with that out of the way, I do want to let's get into the topic of this evening, and that is scams and con artists. Now, we all know economic hardship is on the horizon. Maybe I've been wrong about the time frame, but it is a mathematical certainty. The Fed is printing money like mad. Money printers go burr. They have essentially backed themselves into between a rock and a hard place. If they raise interest rates to arrest the inflation and try to save the value of the U.S. dollar, they're going to collapse the economy. And then the U.S. government it's going to be impossible for the U.S. government to keep servicing its debt because interest rates are too high. If they don't raise interest rates and they continue to let the money printers go burr, we're going to get a hyperinflation. Maybe it'll happen next week, maybe it'll happen a year from now, maybe it'll happen 10 years from now, but the bottom line is it is a mathematical certainty. You cannot continue to print money like this and not have a hyperinflation happen eventually. Or if they decide to they finally say, okay, we got to save the dollar, we're going to raise interest rates, it's going to collapse the economy. It's just, it is going to happen. And regardless of when it happens, the longer they put it off, the worse it's going to be when it finally comes. But of course, one thing that is also for sure to happen is that when times are hard, when people are losing their jobs, when the dollar is losing its purchasing power, and people are struggling to make ends meet, you can bet without fail scammers and con artists are going to come out of the woodwork hoping to profit off people's desperation in an attempt to make money, try to convince them to give up what little savings, what little possessions they have left, based on selling them a promise that they know will never come to fruition. And there are a couple different types of scams I want to talk about, but in particular, and I'm certainly not the first person to talk about scams and con artists. Actually, one of my favorite YouTube channels I've been watching lately is a guy named CoffeeZilla. His whole YouTube channel is about investigating and exposing scammers on the internet. And they're nothing new. They're always around, but especially when times are hard, these guys come out of the woodwork. And I'm going to wager that I got 9 people watching, and those of you who are watching later, if you've been watching my channel or any other channel on YouTube, I guarantee, as of late, you started to see a certain kind of ad showing up. And this ad, there are all kinds of different ads, but they all follow the same basic premise. And basically, they open that ad, and you see like 5 seconds wait. You could skip this ad, but wait, what if I told you that by watching this ad, I could show you how you can make $100,000 over the next 30 days? And of course, who wouldn't want to make $100,000 over the next 30 days? Your eyebrow raises. You could click skip ad, but might as well hear what they have to say. And then it goes into a collage. The person shows you a lot of footage of fancy cars and a huge mansion and beautiful babes in bikinis, and basically tells you, I was just like you once. I was working a dead-end job. I was struggling to make ends meet, but I said I had enough of this. I discovered the secret to how you can make a ton of money by doing this or that. Maybe it's drop shipping products on Amazon. Maybe it's learning how to trade stocks on Robinhood. Or maybe it's they've got this skill they can teach you that if you'll get hired by these real high-end employers. And all you've got to do is come to my free webinar, and I'll explain this to you. And then you click on the link, it takes you can register for a free webinar, and it goes from there. But I'm willing to bet people watching here have seen that kind of ad. Now, actually, question I shouldn't assume everyone knows what I'm talking about. Caster here asks, what are con artists and scammers? Quite simply, a scam is something where, or if you don't know the terminology, a scam is something where essentially a salesman is trying to sell you a product, which he tells you is going to do, it may be a physical product, it may be a digital product, it may be a course to enroll in. Basically, someone is trying to sell you something that they promise is going to do this or that for you, but they know for a fact it's not going to work. They are deliberately misrepresenting some aspect of their product in order to try and get you to buy it. It might be they're trying to sell you an electric car that they know for a fact was made cheaply. It's going to break down within several weeks of using it, but by the time it breaks down, they're long gone. And this has taken many different forms throughout the ages. You may have heard the term snake oil salesman. Back in the 1800s, this traveling salesman rolls into town. He's got this snake oil that if you put it in your coffee, it'll make you stronger. And of course, who wouldn't want to be stronger? I'm giving a very basic milk toast example here, but he's selling you something that you really can't verify it, but it seems too good to be true. But wouldn't it be great if all you had to do to get tall and muscular was to put this snake oil in your coffee and drink it a couple times a week, and after a sufficient amount of time, you'll be taller and you'll be stronger. Of course, he's very quick to tell you that this offer is not going to be on the table for long. He's moving on to another town, and it only costs X amount of money, but it probably is a lot of money. It's more money than you would want to spend. It's certainly not $1. It's not $10. It's more. We're talking in the realm of $100. It's $500, and you say, "Whoa, I'm not sure I want to spend that much money." And he puts his hand on your shoulder and says, "Hey, man, if you could get taller and stronger just by drinking the snake oil, wouldn't you be willing to sacrifice $500?" And you think to yourself, "Well, of course, if it actually works." But that's just the thing. You've got to fork over the money. He's not going to be around forever, so you give it a try. Of course, it's nothing but that's exactly all it is. Snake oil. It has no properties in it that's actually going to make you taller or stronger. And by the time several weeks of doing this go by and you realize it's not working, the con artist is long gone, and you have no way of holding him accountable, and you sure feel like a fool. You know, the business model has taken many different forms throughout history, but essentially it's the same sort of thing. And I notice J.C. Armitage says the biggest scam is fiat currency. Yeah, it is a scam because they're promising you one thing when they're promising you that fiat currency is going to hold its value, but it really isn't. It's a benefit to the government because they can print as much of it as they want. Meanwhile, you are forced to use it, and as you try to save it, it loses its purchasing power. It is indeed a scam, although I'd say it's even worse than most scammers actually have to convince their victims to voluntarily participate. The government forces you to do it at gunpoint. That is a difference. But that's basically the business model. The business model goes something like this. There are three things that every person really wants to obtain: money, sex, and power. So the salesman, the con artist, the person who's, and for the record, I think at every point in their life, salesmen, any person who's ever worked in sales gets accused of being a scam artist at some point. I have nothing against salesmen per se. If you're trying to sell a product, obviously it's human nature. You're going to drone on and on about the beneficial aspects of the product, and you're probably going to ignore or try to seriously downplay the negative aspects of the product. That's just the nature of a salesman. But the difference between just a salesman who's trying to sell his product and a con artist is the con artist knows that whatever he's selling doesn't work, or that he's extremely exaggerating its effectiveness. He knows the vast majority of the people he sells it to are going to fail, yet he still talks a big game like it's really going to work, and if and when the person fails, he always has some excuse in his back pocket as to why it's that person's fault, not his fault. So the vision he sells you is this fantasy that if you just buy his product, enroll in his course, whatever it is he's selling, money, sex, and power are going to be yours. But of course, there's a caveat. You have to be willing to put forth the effort. You have to be willing to fork over the high amount of money for the product. And if it doesn't work, well, it's not my fault. It's your fault because you didn't put in the work. You didn't put in the effort. So what are examples of some of these gurus? I'm going to give just a couple examples here. Again, money, sex, and power. Essentially, we've got on the internet, we've got three basic types of gurus going around. The money guru, and this is the guy who's going to teach you, enroll in my course to learn about trading stocks. Buy my online course to learn how to dropship products on Amazon. Buy my course on how to learn to build an online consulting business. Or perhaps you're more familiar with the multi-level marketing scheme, where a person is selling basically some ridiculously overpriced product that they say is really great, but not only sell the product, you're going to recruit other people to sell the product. They're going to recruit other people to sell the product, and then we build this business where every time they make a sale, you get a cut. The person who recruited you gets a cut all the way back to the top, even though if it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that if you are recruiting people, if you're selling products and recruiting people, they're selling products and recruiting people, those people are selling products and recruiting people. This is a mathematical exponential growth where if you just say, for example, that every person has to recruit 5 people, that person recruits 5 more people, it's something like 17 cycles, and then you've exceeded the population of the earth. So very clearly, this is not a business model that's going to work. Eventually, you're going to run out of customers, and more importantly, only the people at the very top are going to make any decent amount of money. The vast majority of people who join that business and try to make that business model work aren't going to make any money at all. It's mathematically impossible. But essentially, that's the model. They say, I'm going to either teach you how to sell this product, either you're going to buy this product, or you're going to buy this online course. And I think, like, in today's day and age, the online course really is the model that this scam has taken place, that is really become the popular distribution method. And but like every good con, like every good scam, it's not entirely false. There's always some amount of good information in there, because if it was a total, a complete and obvious lie, nobody would fall for it. There has to be at least some good information in there, and especially then when the promise doesn't pan out, when it doesn't work, they can always point to the fact that there was good information there. It's not my fault, it's your fault. You must not have worked hard enough. You must not have done enough. It's the blame will never fall on the person who sold you the scam. The blame will always fall on you. So let's talk through what I think would be an obvious example of a scam, but even though it could contain some true information. So I'm sure many of you, when I was a child, dreamed of being a professional athlete someday. So imagine if, for example, someone started an online scheme where they basically said, I'm a professional athlete, and I'm going to teach you what it takes to be a professional athlete. And I just want you to know, if you have been told that only a certain percentage of people can become professional athletes, I'm here to show you I never thought I could do it either, but I'm going to teach you all my secrets. All you got to do is buy my online course, and it costs $900. Now, mind you, this is like a $5,000 value, but I'm selling it to you for $900. And if you could pay $900 and it would guarantee that you would become a professional athlete, wouldn't it be worth it? And you think to yourself, that sounds great. It does sound great, doesn't it? But, mind you, this offer is only going to be on the table for the next 72 hours. If you don't buy, you're going to miss out. So now he's created scarcity. He's basically said, if you don't buy within 72 hours, you're going to lose this opportunity forever. Never mind the fact that how if it really is worthwhile, why is he only going to sell it for 3 days? Of course he's going to try and sell it again. But you keep going, so you go ahead and buy the course, and then you discover that in that course, it's just kind of generic information. Like, these are workouts you need to do. Like, if you want to be a basketball player, these are basketball workouts. If you want to be a football player, these are the workouts. And here's the diet, and here's this or that. And all this information may be true, technically speaking. It may be true that real professional basketball players do these workouts, or real professional football players eat this particular diet. But even if that is true, that would make it a necessary precondition to become a professional athlete, but it certainly wouldn't be a sufficient precondition. And of course, the person can say, now, these things, these workouts, these diets by themselves aren't enough. You have to put in the work. And then, of course, if one of his customers comes back to him and says, I did the workouts, I followed the diet, but I still don't have the skill necessary to be a professional athlete. Well, he's left blameless. He can always come back and say, you just didn't put in enough work. And I hope all of you listening right now can see the problem, and that is that even if what's in that course, this Become a Professional Athlete course, is technically true, even if these are in fact workouts that are used by professional athletes, even if these are diets that are used by professional athletes, there's a missing factor here, and that is that there are literally millions of people who want to be professional athletes. There is such a thing as genetics. Certain people are born with a level of God-given talent that other people don't have. And even if it's the case that there are a lot of people who want this and are willing to put forth the effort, it's a simple game of numbers. If you look statistically, the number of people who dreamed about being professional athletes as children compared to those that are professional athletes as adults, it just doesn't even stack up. It is not even 1% of the people who wanted that as children end up actually being able to do it. And it's not simply a matter of they didn't want it bad enough, they didn't put in enough effort. There are just other factors at play that dictate that not everybody who wants this is going to be able to do it. And so you can see, and further, suppose you investigate into this person who's selling this course, and you discover he never actually was a professional athlete. That's a complete lie. Because on the internet, you can lie about a lot of things, and hardly anybody's going to fact check you. Now, granted, I don't think just because someone was never actually a professional athlete themselves doesn't necessarily mean that the information in their online course is necessarily false. Again, it could be technically good information. Those could be good workouts, could be a good diet, but the fact is they are selling the thing that they're all but guaranteeing that if you just buy this course, you will achieve these levels of success, is something that no person who understands the industry could possibly promise. And that's what makes it a scam. They are deliberately misrepresenting how difficult it is to break into that industry. They're deliberately misrepresenting their own credentials. And even if there is, in fact, true information that's being passed out in those courses, the vast majority of their students are going to fail. And that is the deceptive business model that, of course, people are extremely susceptible to if they are desperate, if they really want something bad enough. And in cases Now, the professional athlete example looks uh, pretty extreme, and I think most people understanding how small the professional sports world is wouldn't fall for that kind of scam. On the other hand, when you're talking about lesser known things like stock trading or starting online businesses, or let's talk about relationships, the dating coach, the pickup artist, or the skill guru, the person who's going to teach you this special skill that only they can teach you, and businesses everywhere are going to want to hire you if you just learn this skill. These are lesser known things that the average person is less educated in. And of course, if you're desperate, if you just lost your job, if you're struggling to make ends meet, and they flash this vision of you in front of you about, I was just like you, but I learned this and now I'm going to teach it to you too. People are extremely susceptible to that. So what are the things to look for to kind of dictate whether or not something is a scam? Well, I'd say there are a couple. I can't speak. I'm not going to name names, and I certainly could name names for people on YouTube who are running these ads who I firmly believe are scam artists, and I think there are other YouTubers like CoffeeZilla and these other channels that have really investigated some of these people and exposed them for being scams. But there are a couple telltale signs that you can be sure that we are entering a time of hardship. What this person is selling is too good to be true. It is probably a scam. And as I'd say the first telltale sign is that whatever they're trying to sell you is extremely high priced. Like you get into first they invite you to a free webinar, and the webinar is indeed free, but when they get to the end, then they showcase the product, they showcase their online course, and I guess usually the product is an online course. You discover it's not. It is they're charging $900, $1,000, and they'll say something like, "This is a $5,000 value, and I'm only charging $1,000 for it." Well, of course, the average person, and certainly the person that just lost their job and is on the verge of being broke, doesn't have $1,000 to fork over. And the way they reel you in is they say, well, if this could change your life, if this could make you a millionaire in the next 6 months, wouldn't it be worth it? Well, maybe, but again, that's the thing. You don't have $1,000 to spend, and how exactly are they going to guarantee that that taking this course is going to make you a lot of money? They don't. In fact, they explicitly say you have to put the work in so that when it doesn't work out, they then blame you. They're not at fault. When it comes to online courses, there's only so much information in the world. I'm not against online courses per se. I'm not against coaches, be they business coaches, dating coaches, life coaches. But there are people that have particular skills and they can market those skills. But when someone is asking you to fork over outrageous amounts of money, more money than the average person has sitting around, I'm always immediately skeptical. Because in all likelihood, whether it's business, learn how to start your own business, learn how to get good at picking up girls, learn this particular skill, whatever they're selling, whatever online course they're selling for $900, I can pretty much guarantee there is probably a paperback book at Barnes & Noble or on Amazon that has all the information they're going to try to sell you that you can get for $15. That's just the reality. No one can guard information so well that only they have access to it, and they can get away with charging $900, $1,000 for it. If it is information you want, honestly, go buy a book. I'm sure there's a book somewhere that has the information, and you can get it for a much cheaper price. Second telltale sign is upsales. Upsales is a tactic basically where you buy one course and then later on they sell you another course, or they sell you another product, or they offer you access to an exclusive group for an additional amount of money. And they say, again, if you buy the first product and it doesn't work out, well, try buying this product. Maybe you didn't put enough effort into it, but if you buy this product, this will help make it easier. And in fact, or pay extra money and you can talk to me exclusively, and I'll give you tips and tricks that'll show you why it's not working and help it work more often. And the more effort you put into it, the less it's working, the more they encourage you to keep spending more money. Again, there's only so much you can charge for information. If you can't get the information out of a $10 to $15 book, I seriously doubt paying for a $900,000 course is actually going to give you anything more meaningful. And then the third thing to look for is the inconsistent lifestyle. One of the biggest selling points of these scammers and these con artists is they try to sell you that they are living this they were once like you, they lost their job, they didn't have much savings, hard times were coming, but they discovered this secret, and now look at them. They've got all kinds of footage of them driving in their Lamborghini in front of their huge mansion, all these beautiful babes in bikinis dancing around them, and of course, who wouldn't want to live a life like that? But of course, you look a little closer, you do some investigation, and you discover they aren't living a life like that. And like I said, there are other channels that, like CoffeeZilla that I mentioned, who do these investigations. But these private investigators look into these individuals, and they discover that Lamborghini he's driving, he rented it. That huge mansion, that's stock footage from somewhere else. Or, he traveled to a mansion and took a selfie of himself in front of it, but that's not really his. All those babes in bikinis dancing around him, he didn't pick them up with his pick artist skills. They were paid to be in. There's an explicit they're basically paid actresses. He made an explicit contract, paid them $300 to appear in his video. No, they wouldn't go to bed with him if their life depended on it. It's all fake. They're not actually living that kind of lifestyle, but they're pretending like they are, because that's what they're trying to sell you. And every person is a hypocrite in some regard. I don't think pointing out someone's hypocrisy in and of itself shows that what they're saying is false. But especially among these money gurus who are saying, I did this, I made a ton of money, look at my amazing lifestyle. Or these pickup artists who, I learned the secrets to picking up girls at the bar, and I've been smashing hundreds of nines and tens ever since I started employing these dating tactics, and you can too. If you discover that that's not true, they don't actually own a mansion, they don't actually own a Lamborghini, they're not actually smashing hundreds of girls. I mean, isn't that relevant information you might like to know before you spend hundreds or even thousands of dollars on their online course or on their product that they promised you would give you this lifestyle they're not living? And of course, and that's really just the thing about these scams and con artists. They're promising you something that you really ought to stop and think to yourself, I mean, that sounds great, but as the old saying goes, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. Getting rich is not easy. Becoming an awesome James Bond type pickup artist is it's called fiction for a reason. There is no one who is that successful with women. And if you really thought if picking up women were that easy as buying a book and buying an online course, don't you think every guy in the world would have already done it, and there wouldn't be any lonely guys out there trying to pick up women? I mean, if there was a secret to becoming a professional athlete or a great salesman or a star musician or whatever else it is, if it was that simple as just buying a course and learning it, don't you think if it was that easy, everyone would be doing it? But of course, when you are desperate, when times are hard, when you lost your job, when you're struggling to make ends meet, you're extremely susceptible to these kinds of scams. So I just want to encourage everyone, as we're going into these times of economic hardship, I hope you've prepared. If you haven't prepared, I mean, it's never too late to start preparing. But if you're struggling and you start hearing people, you start seeing more and more of these ads where people are trying to reel you in and tell you that if you just buy my online course, if you just learn this, if you just pay me a modest amount of money, I can teach you how to get out of your pitiful circumstances, it's almost certainly a scam. Do not fall for it. Looking through the comments, I see a lot of interesting discussion that's happening between people in the chat. Doesn't have a lot to do with what I'm talking about now, but it is. But I always encourage people to debate. No Leaf Clover says, "Oh, these sound like those how to get all the girls you want ads that just plagiarize passages from Discovering the Mind of a Woman by psychologist Ken Nair." Exactly. And, that's a great example. Pickup artists. I've been focusing mostly on these. I mean, I mentioned that. I've been focusing mostly on these people that are selling you online courses that teach you how to trade stocks, start your own business. But pickup artists are especially one of these biggest scams. A lot of these guys are, they'll show these pictures of themselves with all these babes in bikinis, and they're like, oh, I used to be a dopey beta male like you. Girls wanted nothing to do with me, but I discovered the secret that really becoming an alpha male. And if you employ these tactics, if you go into the bar, you'll start picking up women left and right. You'll be getting laid left and right, and because I'm getting laid left and right. And isn't that what you want? Isn't it worth spending $1,000 for me to be your dating coach to get access to my online course? And of course, you get into the course, and that's exactly all it is. They're just plagiarizing content from a book that you could have bought for $10. And then when you do the research, you discover that they're not even getting laid. I mean, I'm not going to name names of any particular dating coaches, but go ahead, do some searching on YouTube, type in or Google, just type in dating coach scam, and you'll find there are other people who have investigated these individuals and determined that all these people who are many of them who are saying, I've seduced thousands of girls, I'm so successful in the dating scene. The reality is these are fat, overweight guys who are married to women older than them, who are butt ugly. They couldn't get laid if they tried going to the bar, and all they've really done is taken a book someone wrote that probably had some good information. I mean, maybe it may be good information, but it's certainly not. The information itself isn't going to be the secret that's going to help you pick up thousands of women. And they slap the price tag, a way higher price tag on it. And now a bunch of desperate suckers are blowing their life savings thinking it's going to get them laid. And of course, when they don't succeed and they go back to the dating coach and say they didn't succeed, they always have a way out. They easily just say, oh, well, you didn't put in the work, or you've got to take that next upsell. So, excellent example there. JC Arns. Oh. Wasn't going to name names, but I can't resist because Dan Bilzerian, someone mentioned here. Yeah, Dan Bilzerian is a perfect example of this. For those of you who don't know, he was an individual who there's all kinds of footage of him on YouTube of his $1 billion mansion. He's got all these beautiful girls and cars and guns that he owns and he's living the life. Wouldn't you like to be like him? Well, as it turns out, a number of investigators have looked into it. Dan Bilzerian was essentially a trust fund baby who inherited a lot of money from his father. All the beautiful girls that were at his estate were essentially paid actresses. They were paid to be there, and his entire business model that was supposedly making him all his money was largely a fraud. I'm not getting into specifics there. There are other people who have exposed him, but that's a good example. JC Armitage says, also, if any of these how to get rich, lots of girls, etc. quick books or videos actually work, I guarantee you several crypto agorists would have leaked them on the internet by now. Exactly. And that's the thing. All the information you can get in these courses, I guarantee you it's available somewhere for $15 to $20. You do not need to spend $1,000 to get what may be true information. And for any good grift to work, for any con artist to work, they have to give you at least some good information. It's just not... It's not actually going to work to the level that they claim it is. And in fact, more often than not, if you investigate these individuals, it's not even working for them. Castor says, 2 cents, do you get one of those car warranty scam calls? I get those frequently. Yes, I absolutely do. There's no shortage of scams in the world, and the unfortunate reality is that when economic times are hard, they get even worse. There are always con artists and scammers out there trying to swindle you out of money by promising you something they know they can't possibly deliver on. But especially when people are desperate and especially susceptible, these kind of things become all the more common. And I predict, I'm sure you're all seeing these kinds of ads right now, I predict they're going to get even worse as the economy continues to get worse and worse. So that's what I wanted to talk about tonight. Hope you got some value out of it. If you have any questions, or heck, like I said at the beginning, I don't want anyone to accuse me of being a scammer either. My channel is about one thing. It's about giving you my 2 cents. But at the same time, I'm not infallible. I'm more than happy to admit if and when I'm wrong. So that's all I got for today. And as always, that is my 2 cents. You can take it for what it's worth.